An open letter to New England Patriots billionaire owner Robert Kraft. Robert, it's better for people to assume that you're a douche than to open your mouth and leave no doubt. Michael McLean, brassballsvideos.com. You can download a copy of my brand new book for free. 5 ways to unfuck your life in the next 30 days. Just go to the link below, brassballsvideos.com. Download the 22-page book for free. My treat. I'm an ex-professional hockey coach, ex-championship amateur coach, turned 8-figure entrepreneur. Man, oh man, talk about leaving no doubt that you are an out-of-touch, overrated, billionaire, has-been owner, than lacking the discipline to zip your lip about employing the greatest professional football coach in history. Arguably the greatest football coach in NFL history. If you go on Super Bowl records, if you believe like I do that the scoreboard never lies, if you believe like I do that your win-loss record is exactly who you are, for better or for worse, then you employed a coach who took your mediocre, dysfunctional franchise. Thank God for the great Bill Parcells. Thank God, of course, for the greatest of all time, the great Bill Belichick. Before that, you were underwater with guys like Pete Carroll. And then you brought in the real football coaches, accidentally. It was your emergency break glass moment. You had no other choice. If you want to keep your franchise, Kraft wouldn't know a football from a hockey puck. So eventually, Bill Belichick evolves into his head coach 6 Super Bowls later. Think about that. In the second hardest league, in my opinion, to win a championship, the NHL is the hardest. I was a minor professional hockey coach. I won championships in amateur, and I thought that was hard, like next to impossible. And the NHL, in my biased opinion, is the toughest championship to win. But the second hardest championship to win is in the NFL. Can you imagine? Most franchises, they want to win one. They want to win one. And most that win one, you never hear from them again for another 20 or 30 years. Coaches come, GMs come, presidents come, players come, draft picks come and go. Belichick and Brady, 6, count them, Super Bowl rings. And what's incredible about it is it didn't happen in 6 years. It wasn't the typical sports dynasty. When the Edmonton Oilers won 5 straight Stanley Cups, they won 5 straight Stanley Cups. They had the best players, as Coach Red Berenson from Michigan would say. They had the best players getting off the bus for 5 years, and they won 5 Stanley Cups with Wayne Gretzky and Marc Messier and Grant Fuhr and Curry and Gretzky. Same thing happened with the New York Islanders. They won 5 straight Stanley Cups. Unheard of in today's game. But they did it 5 years in a row with the best coach and the best players getting off the bus. But Belichick, if you really look at it, whether you like the guy, whether you loathe the guy created And I mean, the guy, he's picking the players, he's developing the players. This is a guy who actually designed, over his time in New England, 2 separate mini dynasties. Mini dynasties. It would have been the same as the Oilers winning 3 and then 3. Or the Montreal Canadiens winning, 2 here, a couple of years, it looks like you're done. Like, the guy literally won Super Bowls, and then all the talking heads, all the critics, all the doubters, all the pretenders, well, New England's time is over, Brady's time is over, they've lost all of these Hall of Fame players, and boom, Brady, Belichick, the gang, they win it again. They rebuild it. They bring in guys from other teams, Randy Mosses of the world. They draft some questionable players. The iron in the room was so strong with Brady in charge that they literally can bring in a player for a short period of time, and they found a way to win. But the man, Belichick, built 2 separate mini dynasties and won 6 Super Bowl rings, not to mention the ones that he didn't win. The most powerful dynasty in sports in our lifetime. So what's his reward for this? What's his reward for taking a franchise that a few years before him and Parcells was 1-15, and now they got 7 championship banners hanging in a new stadium. They got 6. They got 6 championship rings on the owner's fingers. And you drafted and you developed the all-time greatest quarterback in Tom Brady. Yes, you do have to get lucky to win. Yes, you do have to draft players that you get a bit lucky, but you got to develop them too. He drafted Brady. And sure, it's in the late rounds. Doesn't matter. He drafted Brady. And he helped develop Brady, and the rest is history. So what does he get for 6 Super Bowl titles? The guy's got 7 if you count his time with Parcells winning a Super Bowl with the Giants. I mean, the guy did nothing but win for 2 decades. And he turns your franchise into one of the most valuable franchises in sports, period. You get a new stadium, your franchise is worth billions of dollars. It becomes the place where most of the players want to go after nobody years before would want to go anywhere near New England. And he builds the ultimate championship culture around the greatest quarterback in history. And what's his thanks? His thanks is, okay, you decide to end the relationship a few months ago. That's fully your job and responsibility as owner. You can have you can have Elon Musk as your coach if you want. You can have anybody you want. That's fully Robert Kraft's right. But then, instead of just making the necessary decision, things weren't working. Accurate thinking. Things were no longer working in New England. A huge part of it is those 2 guys letting the greatest quarterback in history walk. And any of us could have made that mistake. He's got no more gas in the tank. He's in his 40s. I think it's time to make a change. Father Time's undefeated. We all could have made that mistake. But Belichick made that mistake, and Kraft signed off on that mistake. His so-called son, Tom Brady. So the reality is, you cost yourself maybe another Super Bowl. Brady goes to Tampa. He wins a Super Bowl out of fucking spite. And they had a high-quality team, and they just needed that proven champion under center. That he won a championship. He won his 7th out of spite. So you know what? You lick your wounds as a 6-time champion owner, and you understand, you know what? This man built 2 separate mini dynasties, and everything he touched over time turned to gold. And I have 6 Super Bowl rings because of this guy. I got 6 Super Bowl banners because of this guy. I have a new stadium because of this guy. And for a long time, that was the destination for great players because of this guy. But oh no, now we gotta air our dirty laundry. And I'm talking about that documentary, and it won't be long until there's books out about this. But the problem, I don't give a shit about biographies and things that are unsolicited. I'm talking about the words that come from the owner. From Mr. Kraft, from Robert Kraft. All you have to do, you're in your 80s, all you have to do is zip your lip if you don't have anything good to say about Belichick, and understand, as a billionaire, he's had thousands of people work for him, that most of the people that we start with, myself included, you included, we don't finish with the people we start with. Some people quit, some people retire, some people go lame, some people head a different direction. That's part of life and business. I don't go around bad-mouthing my old executive assistants, my old 3 executive assistants. I don't go around saying, oh, well, they were difficult or any of that stuff. I don't talk about my old players. I don't talk about my old scouts. I don't talk negatively about my old coaches. I don't talk negatively about my old managers or any of that stuff. Like, it's such douche behavior. It's such douche behavior when you've done nothing but win. And then, you know what? Maybe Belichick, maybe he was too old school the last handful of years. Maybe the new player doesn't want to play for a guy like Belichick. The same thing happened to Parcells. The same thing happens to all the great coaches. So worst case scenario, Bill Belichick didn't all of a sudden not know how to coach football. You know, he dropped the ball as a general manager. He became lame as a general manager and coach. He started to believe his own headlines. He let a lot of this go to his head. You win 6 Super Bowls. And he thought he was better than he was. And he underestimated how important Tom Brady was. And if you were sitting down having a beer and a sandwich with Belichick now, and you were being candid, he would probably be the first guy to admit that. The fact that, you know, he went lame as well. And that the change was necessary. That it was time for them to head in a different direction with a different general manager, a different voice, and a new beginning. Brady's long gone. It's time for Belichick to go. You think that he's a dummy now. You don't think he can recruit. Guys don't want to play in New England. Okay. You make the change. So all you have to do is say, it was an incredible pleasure and privilege to work with the GOAT of all coaches. It was a pleasure and a privilege to work with the greatest of all time. And what made him the greatest of all time is, sure, Bill was very prickly with the media. He could be standoffish. He could be all the great coaches. Like Kraft doesn't seem to have a concept that there's a connection between the way Belichick is the connection to winning. This is like you saying after Bobby Knight, you have Bobby Knight wins you your national championships in your basketball program, but then he wears out his welcome, his expiry date comes up, and all of a sudden it's like, well, we didn't like Bobby Knight. I didn't like the way he talked. I didn't like the way he cussed. I don't like the way he was mean to people. But we like the banners. We like the national championship titles. We like the money that came with it. And that's the hypocritical part of all this with Robert Kraft. Oh, and by the way, I love the Patriots, so I am biased. I am completely biased because I like and respect Bill Belichick. I've studied everything about Coach Belichick. I'm a huge Tom Brady fan. And I just love what they did in New England in the NFL, where it's not for long. They did the unthinkable, winning 6 Super Bowl titles. And admittedly, when Brady went to Tampa, I was like, good for him. You know, you misread the situation. You know, you didn't think he had anything left in the tank and you moved on. I understand it, but you still won 6 Super Bowl titles. And then Brady gets the 7th, which is the ultimate screw you guys. But it doesn't mean all of a sudden, after the man has left the building, after Belichick has left the building, that you start talking to, you know, reporters and book authors and somebody putting together a show. These people are just trying to take the meat off of the skeleton, see if there's something there that they can run him into the ground. And of course, they drag up all the Deflategate and all this other stuff because, I mean, you got all these teams that never won anything, right? You have all these envious owners, you have all these envious general managers, you have all these envious coaches. So instead of Bob Kraft stepping up and supporting the man and saying, you know what? We owe this franchise, we owe a debt of gratitude to Bill Belichick. The guy worked 18 hours a day. He put the franchise ahead of his family. He put it ahead of his kids. He put it ahead of his health. He did the same thing in Cleveland. The man is 24/7 football. But instead, as a weakling, you take an opportunity to take a shot at him. Well, you know, he was very difficult to work with. No shit. Do you think that Elon Musk is easy to work with? Do you think Henry Ford was easy to work with? Do you think that Margaret Thatcher was easy to work with? Do you think Mike Ditka was easy to work with? Do you think that anybody who accomplishes what a Bill Belichick has accomplished is easy, is normal, is warm and fuzzy? Who gives a shit about his relationship with the media? Are you kidding me? 6 rings. 6 Super Bowl rings? Do you think that there's any other ownership group in the NFL that wouldn't take 6 Super Bowl rings but hire a coach who's prickly with the media? In every sport you have that. You have the John Tortorellas of the world, but he doesn't deliver you 6 Stanley Cups. And the Philadelphia Flyers still employ him and are happy that they have him. Like, who gives a shit about your relationship with the media when all you do is win? And they had their opportunity to tear him down when he stopped winning. I knew this was coming. As soon as Brady was gone, as soon as the players started to age out, as soon as the game got different, everybody copied Belichick. They all copied his defense. So it's only a matter of time till they'll copy everything Elon Musk does with electric cars. They copied everything that Henry Ford did. They copied everything that Winston Churchill did. There's no new playbooks. But the fact of the matter that you had a 20-year relationship with this man, and he literally put the team ahead of his own family, his own marriage, his own children, and delivered 6 Super Bowl championships to you, your family, and to that fan base. And then you turn and you don't refer or recommend him to somebody else, that you take an opportunity to take a shot at him in a show or in an article. Oh, he was power hungry. I wouldn't want a head coach that wasn't power hungry. Whenever I was coaching at any of the lower levels, I was the most power hungry guy in the franchise, in the hockey franchise. That's who I want. I want Scotty Bowman running my hockey team. I want Jimmy Johnson running my football program. These are the kind of guys, they're winners, they're ball busters, they're badasses, they're top 1%ers. Who the hell do you think you were hiring in the first place? A guy that's going to bleed. He's going to bleed the colors of the Patriots until you tell him it's time. It is, you know what? And he had an expiry date. Everybody has an expiry date. Everybody goes lame. I have an expiry date. I was fired in minor pro. My expiry date came up. If I want it to last longer, like my dad said to me, you should have coached better. Everybody goes lame. Everybody has an expiry date. Everybody gets to a point where they think they're better than they are. Belichick got to the point where he thought he was better than he was. He thought he was superhuman. He thought he could do it without Brady. He thought he could do it without other great players. And he learned the lesson that he can't. You got to have the best players getting off the bus. But it's no excuse to be such a douche as the owner of your team and not recommend a guy. And you know what? If a guy from Atlanta calls you a fellow owner, they're all royalty, right? As soon as you own an NFL team, you're anointed royalty in America. That's it. If you can become an owner of an NFL franchise, it's like you're anointed royalty. And I'm all for somebody that gets themselves there. But when one of those guys calls, I think it has to be a little bit of a balanced review that, you know what? He's going to be difficult to deal with. He's going to be arrogant. He's going to be confident. He's going to be honest. He's going to be blunt. He's going to be prickly. He's not always going to treat people well. But he's the greatest defensive mind I've ever seen. Or he's the greatest quarterback, whatever it is. And you might even go as far as Kraft did and say, you know what? I wouldn't recommend Bill now at his age. I wouldn't recommend his ideas in terms of drafting and recruiting. I don't think that his systems, whatever you want, but don't attack the character of the man who delivered 6 banners to your stadium. Talk about lack of class. Talk about lack of gratitude. It's one thing. I mean, my dream was to coach the National Hockey League, and my dad and my mom always said, man, that's going to be a tough life, Michael. You're going to have to uproot your family 15 times. You're going to get fired every place you go. Your kids are going to have to move schools. The media is going to love you. They're going to hate you. The fans are going to love you. Then they're going to loathe you. But if that's what you want, then we support you. And it didn't work out long term for me for many reasons. But to tear somebody down behind their back, if he even had that conversation with Belichick before they decided to part ways, that would have been fine as well. You can see the true integrity and character in a man as well. Ever since Belichick parted ways with the Patriots, all you've heard from some of his greatest players, including Tom Brady, all of these guys, the guys that, have the 4 rings, the 5 rings. And you know what? They tell a very different story. They talk about how that guy pushed them to the next level, how he was one of the greatest teachers, how he actually wasn't a rah-rah guy. He wasn't a mean guy. He wasn't a Buddy Ryan. He wasn't a Vince Lombardi. He wasn't a Pat Riley. He wasn't like that at all. He was a teacher like his father was at heart. And he wasn't a fire and brimstone guy at all. I knew two guys that played in the CFL in Canada. They both attended the Patriots training camps and mini camps. They had a cup of coffee. They never played in a regular season game, but they had the pleasure of being around Belichick and the Patriots trying out as draft picks. They ended up playing in Canada. So they had the opportunity to be around Belichick and the Patriots in their heyday. This is when they're winning Super Bowl titles. Brady's there, the whole deal. And both of these guys, with nothing to gain or nothing to lose, said that those handful of weeks before they were cut and released were easily some of the best weeks and days of their lives. And they were really, really impressed by how well they were treated, admittedly by Robert Kraft, by the scouts, by the coordinators, by the assistant coaches, and by Bill Belichick himself. He didn't treat them like they were the next coming of Randy Moss, but they certainly were treated with respect. And for it to come out and not to zip your lip, if you don't have something great to say about the Hall of Famer, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, I just think that it makes Robert Kraft look so small. It makes him look so ungrateful. And it makes him look like he has no clue what winning is about. It almost makes it look like it was, wow, I was lucky enough to have these two guys, Brady and Belichick, and now we're never going to win again until I'm dead and buried. And I like the Patriots, but I'm telling you right now, they ain't winning jack shit for the next 30 years. Because there's football gods, just like there's hockey gods, there's karma, and Robert Kraft just used up his football karma with the football gods. I don't care how much they improve in the next few years. I don't care what happens. The Patriots ain't winning a Super Bowl, and they ain't winning 6 Super Bowls anytime soon, and especially not in Robert Kraft's life. This is the kind of stuff, you think of Jerry Jones, you'd learn from a Jerry Jones, where he kicks Jimmy Johnson when he's on the way out the door after winning back-to-back Super Bowls, taking the Cowboys from the laughingstock of the NFL to the pinnacle in a handful of years. And then a guy like Barry Switzer standing there and winning the 3rd Super Bowl. And the arrogance and the overconfidence and the lack of gratitude of a Jerry Jones, another billionaire without a clue. Well, I can win it with anybody. Telling Jimmy Johnson, treating him poorly, but most importantly, talking bad about him when he's gone. Instead of giving the man credit for putting the franchise ahead of his family, ahead of his marriage, ahead of his kids, and saying, you know what, thank you for your part in bringing two Super Bowl rings to the Dallas Cowboys fan base. No. You got to show that you lack any class and any character, and you got to run the guy into the ground. You're no better than a hater online. You're no better than a doubter or a critic. And then the football gods say, winning says, we're out of here. Winning says, we're out of here. Just like when money flows where? Money flows where it's respected, where it's appreciated, and it runs from where it's disrespected and where it's not appreciated. That's why money is running out of the state of California. That's why money is running out of the country of Canada. That's why money is pouring into places like Florida. That's why money is pouring into states like Tennessee. Because money, like winning, goes where it's respected, where it's honored, and where it's appreciated. And Robert Kraft, not that it's going to matter because he's in his 80s now, but he just pulled a Jerry Jones. He kicked the architect out, and all he had to do was shake hands and say, incredible job, thank you, and zip the lip for the next 10 years. But instead, he had to take his shot. And I don't give a shit whether he was hard to work with or whether he was working with the nicest person on earth. Are you kidding me? I've worked with some of the nastiest SOBs you could ever imagine. And almost to a T, every one of them was an ass-kicking champion. And that's what you hired. So I'll never watch this documentary because it's rat piss. I'll never read these unendorsed books. I've read everything that I need to know about Coach Belichick. I read the only book I need to read on Robert Kraft. I know what really happens in these situations. But I got to tell you, you want to make yourself look small. You want to make yourself look ungrateful. You want to make winning leave town. Winning which used to reside in New England thanks to Belichick and Brady, about 5 years ago, said, check, please. Check, please. We're going to head somewhere else that we're appreciate it, we're respect it, and where it's understood how difficult winning actually is. New England will win nothing for the next 20 to 30 years, and they'll look back on this. They'll do what Jerry Jones did in Dallas. They'll start to, over years, they're like, man, I guess it wasn't that bad with Bill. You know, he wasn't the friendliest guy on earth. He's actually, those two guys that played for him had a cup of coffee, said he's incredibly quiet. They said he's monotone. His meetings are boring. He's like a high school football coordinator. He barely ever raises his voice. He's not a motivator. He's not a yeller or a screamer. He's just a teacher. And he doesn't strike me as the type of guy who's, you know, like rude to secretaries or receptionists or assistants or scouts. I just think that geniuses and wizards like this in any area of life are different. Albert Einstein, they used to say, you know, Albert, they're like, this guy's from another planet. Well, no kidding, he is. Sitting out at the university in a wooden boat in the middle of the pond all day. Okay? These guys like Elon Musk working 20 hours a day, trying to go to Mars. Do you think that they're normal? Is that what you hired? Jimmy Johnson said in his latest book he can't remember ever one time having dinner with his family. I thought it was a joke. He can't remember ever sitting down at the dinner table in 40 years and having dinner with his wife or his two boys. One of the greatest obviously one of the greatest of his life, like the greatest regret. Not Christmas, not Thanksgiving, not Easter, not one time. Not one time in 40 years, not in the off season, not once did he ever have dinner with his family. That's who you're hiring to win. And they'll put it all on the line for you, like a good CEO, like a good head coach, like a good manager. They'll literally put it ahead of their family, which I don't agree with, but that's who you're hiring. And then to do something like this, to kick the stool out from underneath the greatest. Oh, and he's going to suck ass now too. You watch this. Over the next handful of years here, they'll, just like Brady, they'll try and bring Belichick back for a day, a night, for the greatest. Because, I mean, everybody, they won't win. They won't win. Nobody can fill Brady's shoes. Nobody can fill Belichick's shoes. They'll continue to lose. They'll continue to draft poorly. They'll go through a handful of coaches. And then just like in Dallas, the decades will go by and Belichick will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Brady will be inducted into the Hall of Fame as two of the greatest ever. And then the Patriots, Kraft will be probably long gone by then. He'll be gone to the choir invisible. And then they'll try and bring Brady back. He'll be game for that. They've already started on that reclamation project. Plus, he loves the Patriot fans and should. And then they'll try and heal the wounds with Belichick. He'll be in his 80s by then, late 70s, 80s. And they'll bring him back. And the fans will be the first to realize how good they had it. And then the ownership group, whoever the hell that is, his children, they'll start to realize, like Jerry Jones, how good they had it. And only then will they realize, if they do it all, humility is a tough thing for those guys. The mistake they made by not going out with class. You don't want Jimmy Johnson to coach your team? Perfectly okay. Thank the man, pay the man, say goodbye, and shut your mouth. You don't want Bill Belichick to coach your team anymore. You don't want him to be your general manager. I get it. I agree. Pay the man, thank the man publicly, thank the man personally, and zip your lip. Support the next guy that's coming in. It's called class. It's called integrity. Anyway, I wasn't going to rant today. I promised myself I wasn't going to go all postal on Robert Kraft, and I did one better. I ended up bringing poor old Jerry Jones, clueless Jerry Jones, into it. At least Cuban got a reprieve for today. So anyway, listen, click the link below. I have got, that is getting rave reviews. It's only a 22-page book that I wrote. 5 ways to unfuck your life in the next 30 days. We all need to unfuck our life in the next 30 days. I don't care who you think you are. I need to unfuck my life in the next 30 days, and I will 30 years from now, God willing. But I put the 5 things together in 22 pages because no fluff, no theory. It's not some 200-page book. Print it off, study it, share it with the most important people in your life. It's not for poodles. It's not for excuse makers or do-nothings. And enjoy reading it. It's free. There's nothing to buy. And if you want to thank me, comment below if any of the 5 things helped you. You don't have to do all 5. You can just do 1. You can just do 2. But if it helps you, you can put in the comments below, Michael, this particular way helped me. It helped me get my shit together in the last month. And I appreciate that because then it helps me decide what else I should talk about. I'm not a man on an island here. I need some feedback. So, gentleman's agreement, if you print it off below or you read it and you study it and you get some help from it, let me know what worked. Let me know what didn't work. I'm not one of these candy asses with thin skin. I'm like, Michael, this really helped me. And these other things, I don't need them. Great. Comment below. There's a couple of days left to get in for my Michael McLean newsletters coming out. I'm just finishing writing it today. When I'm done, it goes to the printers. It's a print paper. But if you want to subscribe this month, it's $3.24 a day. I mail it to your home or your business. But I did an article. You'll love this if you're not a subscriber. 10 celebrities, athletes, and I don't know what you want to call them, influencers, politicians, whatever, that I can't stand, that I learn from anyway. These are people, 10 people, pro athletes, movie stars, Hollywood people, celebrities, online people, billionaires, there's 10 of them that I can't stand. I despise them. But taking a card from my dad's deck, he said, son, you can learn from everybody. The bum on the street and the millionaire. You can learn from everybody you meet. I've actually learned something from every one of these 10 tomato cans. And in my Michael McLean newsletter this month, I do a big article on the 10 people I can't stand. You'll love this list. But the one major thing I learned or learned not to from each of these people. I despise them. These are the 10 people I can't stand. But I still learn from them. I still read their books. I still listen to their horse shit. And I learned 10 major things, most of them what not to do. You can subscribe below. The link is below. It's badassletter.com, I believe. Badass Letter. $97. I'll throw in one of these badass t-shirts for free this month. But you got to make up your mind in the next few hours because it's going to print. That link is below as well. That's it. Let's be all classy. Let's be high integrity. And let's learn from a guy like Robert Kraft. In his particular case, he didn't make my top 10 list. But there's a guy we can learn exactly what not to do. 2 words that change my life. 2 words that'll change your life. Be relentless.